Some betrayals don't kick the door in. They slip in quietly through an unlocked window. Mine arrived via screenshot. A harmless image my husband sent, showing Amazon gifts for our kids, with just one line too many at the bottom. A shipping label addressed to a woman I'd never heard of. At first, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a mistake, something work-related. But deep down, my stomach turned in a way that told me this wasn't just a misplaced package. So I checked his browser history, then his email, then his Venmo. One breadcrumb at a time. And each one led me closer to a truth I didn't want to see but couldn't unsee. Hotel confirmations, lingerie purchases, restaurant reservations under fake names, flights booked with loyalty points, a Pinterest board labeled, couples retreat ideas, and her name over and over again. My husband's work trips were romantic vacations with a married coworker. I sat at my kitchen table that night, frozen, rereading every email. It wasn't just the affair that broke me, it was the detail. He was planning cooking classes, couples massages, even ordering monogrammed bathrobes. Things he'd never even thought to do for me. My hands shook, but I didn't confront him. Not yet. I decided that if I was going to break this marriage, I'd do it with truth in my pocket and fire in my chest. So for 4 weeks I gathered everything. Credit card receipts, email threads, orders, digital copies and hard backups. I created a folder titled December Project and filled it like a woman building her exit. And then I wrote him a letter, 10 pages long, honest, brutal, controlled. I didn't scream, I didn't beg. I just told him who he had become, who I had been through all of this, and what was going to happen next. I taped the letter into the lining of his suitcase, right where he wouldn't see it until he unpacked at the hotel. Then I waited. He left on a Thursday morning, bags packed, suit freshly pressed, phone in hand. Kissed our kids on the forehead. Kissed me on the cheek. Said, "Wish me luck on the pitch." Smiled. "Knock it out of the park," I said. And watched him walk away without a clue in the world that his double life had just run out of runway. The plan was simple. Wait until check-in. Send a group text to him and his mistress. "Hope you enjoy your trip. There's a letter waiting in your suitcase. I want a divorce." Then email her a digital copy, just in case she missed her name in ink. My best friend knew everything. She agreed to come over and sit with me during the reveal. We had wine and snacks. It felt absurd, having charcuterie while preparing to detonate a marriage, but sometimes reality gets surreal. I tracked his flight online. It landed late. He didn't text me. Said he would. Didn't. I checked our phone records. He texted her during the layover. No Uber from the airport either. That meant she picked him up. Course she did. As the clock ticked closer to check-in time, my heart pounded louder than the TV in the background. I waited until 4 p.m. local time. Then my texts turned green. Undelivered. Froze. Checked again. Still green. He'd blocked me. That tiny act, that digital wall, was somehow more painful than all the evidence I'd uncovered. Not only was he cheating, he was trying to disappear before the fire reached him. My hands trembled. My friend tried his number from her phone. It went through. Delivered. He hadn't blocked everyone. Just me. The wife. The mother of his children. The woman washing his clothes while he sipped champagne in a spa robe. I stared at my phone like it had betrayed me too. Then I looked at my friend. Should I call the hotel? Yes. The thought made my stomach twist. But I had come this far. I wasn't going to back out now. Yes, she said. Do it. I took a deep breath. And dialed. The phone rang 3 times before anyone picked up. When it clicked, a voice answered, but it wasn't his. It was hers. Unsuspecting. The kind of voice that has no idea it's about to swallow a storm. "Hello," she said, with the air of someone who thought they were safe. "Hi," I replied calmly. "Can you please put my husband on the phone?" There was silence. And then confusion. I think you have the wrong room." I could almost hear her calculating. She knew. He knew. And now we both knew that we knew. Tell him it's his wife, I said. The one he left at home with 2 children while he planned couples massages and Etsy bathrobes for you. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. But she hung up. That was the moment it became real. A few minutes later my husband called. Not to apologize. Not to explain. Just to manage. To damage control. I don't know what you're doing, he said. His voice colder than I've ever heard it. Why would you do this now? I laughed. An actual laugh, short and sharp like a knife catching light. Why now? Said. Because you're finally standing in the lie you built. Because you're holding hands with a woman who just found out she's not a fantasy. She's an accomplice. I told him to check his suitcase. He went quiet. I told him the letter was inside the lining. 10 pages, typed and signed. I wanted him to read it while sitting beside her. I wanted the truth to unfold in real time, line by line, page by brutal page. Then I hung up. He didn't call back. Instead, a few minutes later I saw an email alert. It was from her. I opened it, expecting more lies, more deflection. But it was blank. No subject. No message. Just my letter forwarded back to me. Smiled. At least she read it. At least now she knew exactly who she was sharing a bed with. Not just a cheater, but a coward. A man who couldn't face the truth even when it was printed and zipped into his own suitcase. I poured a glass of wine. My best friend sat beside me in silence. We didn't need words. There was something sacred about that moment. Watching a lie collapse under its own weight. Felt calm. Not happy. Not vindicated. Just calm. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally let it go. The next day he didn't come home. I didn't expect him to. But he also didn't respond to any texts. Not even about the kids. I tried once. Sent a photo of our youngest smiling in the backyard. No reply. He'd blocked me. My number, my messages, my presence. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was erasure. He was scrubbing me out of his life like I was the mistake. But I wasn't. And deep down I think he knew that. By day 3. His silence had turned from strategy into cruelty. But I stayed quiet. No contact. No begging. No threats. I'd said everything I needed to in that letter. And maybe that's why he hated it so much. Because for once, the truth wasn't his to control. When he finally returned my call, 3 days later, his voice was flat. No emotion. No remorse. Like someone discussing the weather. I think we should get a divorce, he said, as if it were his decision. I said nothing for a moment, then replied. We already are. He paused. You don't even want to talk? No, I said. Because we already did. You just read it in a hotel room beside the woman you left me for. He exhaled. Frustrated. Like I was being difficult. But I wasn't. I was just done. And when I hung up I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurting. But because somewhere in those 10 pages, I'd already let him go. The thing no one tells you about betrayal is that, after the explosion, the silence is almost worse. It was the way the house still smelled like his cologne. The way his shoes remained lined by the door like he was just out for coffee. The way our children asked if he was bringing back a surprise from his trip, unaware that the surprise was her. I moved through the days in a fog, mechanical, like someone walking barefoot through glass. Careful, deliberate, and trying not to bleed too much all at once. He was gone physically, but his shadow stretched into every corner of the house. But what hurt most wasn't that he cheated. It was that after everything, after being caught and confronted, he came back with nothing. No explanation. No apology. No effort. He didn't even try to lie anymore. He just shut off. He returned from his trip and didn't say a word to me. Walked into our home, passed the evidence of his absence, and went straight to the basement without a glance in my direction. I didn't follow him. I didn't ask questions. I just watched the door close behind him and felt the cold realization settle in. He had already moved on. His mind, his heart, his allegiance, all packed away in the same suitcase that had once carried my letter. We barely spoke. When we did, it was about the kids or groceries or schedules. He made it transactional. I made it final. I began packing his things one room at a time, folding shirts that still held the scent of our shared life and placing them neatly into boxes he'd never thank me for. His collectibles, his sports memorabilia, the framed photos he insisted be hung in the den, all wrapped, sealed, and carried to the garage. My friends came to help. We worked in silence, broken only by the occasional gasp or eye roll when we found something particularly tone-deaf, like a love note from her tucked inside a sock drawer. I didn't scream. I didn't smash anything. Not yet. That would come later. I left the letter on top of the boxes. He never mentioned it. Not once. Like it never existed. Like I never existed. One night I lost it. Quietly at first. I was folding laundry when I came across one of his t-shirts, the one he used to wear every Sunday morning while cooking breakfast. I stared at it for a long time, then slowly sat on the floor, pressing it to my face like it could explain something to me. Didn't. So I got up, walked into the hallway and started pulling frames off the wall. I didn't throw them. I just dropped them, one by one, onto the hardwood. The sound was satisfying. It made something real in a situation that felt completely surreal. The next day I cleaned everything, bleached the bathroom, scrubbed the kitchen, stripped the bed. I was wiping away the ghost of a man who had long stopped loving me but was too much of a coward to say it. He never asked about the mess. He never asked if I was okay. He just went about his life like mine hadn't shattered into shards under his feet. I watched him laugh with the kids, scroll his phone, smile at texts I wasn't allowed to see anymore. He'd blocked me from calling during the trip, and even now, back under the same roof, he blocked me emotionally. The distance between us wasn't measured in miles. It was in indifference. And somehow that was the cruelest betrayal of all. But I wasn't waiting anymore. I contacted a mediator. Told my family. My voice trembled at first, but it grew steadier with each sentence. My mother cried. My father didn't. He just asked, "What do you need?" And I told him space, clarity, strength. And then I told my husband. He didn't argue. Didn't offer resistance. Didn't ask why. Just nodded. "Okay," he said, like I was asking him to pick up milk on the way home. And in that moment I realized something. You don't always get closure in the form of remorse. Sometimes the real closure is watching the person who hurt you prove they never deserved you in the first place. Divorce mediation isn't a battleground. It's a stage. And my husband. He played his part like he'd rehearsed it. Cooperative. Like we were dividing up furniture from a Craigslist listing, not 20 years of marriage. I sat across from him on a Zoom call, not 5 feet away in the same house, and watched him speak to the mediator like a man discussing a business transaction. "We're amicable," he said. "There's no tension." The mediator smiled, relieved. She had no idea the man before her had flown across the country to be with his mistress not once, not twice, but 3 times, while still sleeping in my bed between trips. I said nothing. Not yet. Because I wasn't there to scream. I was there to finish. He didn't ask for much. Didn't fight for the house, the savings, not even for the furniture. "I just want this to be over," he kept repeating. The phrase hung in the air like smoke. But it wasn't relief that filled his voice. It was escape. I could feel it. And when the mediator asked him if he planned to stay local after the divorce, that's when the cracks in his performance started to show. "I'm considering a move," he said. Visual. Vague. "Which state?" she asked, typing notes. He hesitated. Maybe somewhere out west." I tilted my head. "You mean state where she lives?" I asked, my voice calm. He froze. The mediator looked up. His silence was louder than any confession. He hadn't told her. Not about the affair. Not about the woman. Not about why he was suddenly so eager to move 2,000 miles away from his children. I spoke for him. He's moving to be with the woman he was cheating with. That's why he wants to finalize quickly. The mediator blinked. He cleared his throat and said nothing. That was the moment I knew he wasn't just a liar. He was a coward. The kind of man who'll destroy a marriage in secret but can't say the name of his mistress out loud on a Zoom call. After the session we sat in silence. Same living room. Same air. Same broken foundation. I looked at him and said, "You still can't admit it, can you?" He didn't answer. Just stared at his hands like they held the answers he'd never give. "Do you even love her?" I asked. Another pause. "It doesn't matter," he said. And he was right. Didn't. Not anymore. Later that night I overheard him on the phone, downstairs in the basement, thinking I couldn't hear. He was talking to her, laughing, whispering, and then lying. I stood by the door and listened as he rewrote history. Told her I was unstable, that I'd raged, cried, screamed during mediation. None of it was true. We'd been civil, muted, quiet. I hadn't even raised my voice. But to her I was the villain. Crazy ex-wife. The obstacle in his love story. I slammed the basement door. Not out of rage but out of refusal. He paused. I know he heard it. But he didn't come upstairs. Course not. That would require accountability. The next day, I offered him a chair at the dining table for dinner with the kids. He declined. Said he had a call. Probably with her. She'd never met me but she hated me already. Because all she knew of me came from his mouth. And he never told the truth when it made him look bad. It wasn't the affair that hurt me most anymore. It was the gaslighting. The rewriting. The audacity to destroy someone's life and then rewrite them as the villain in your version of it. But I didn't defend myself. I didn't message her. I didn't argue. Because soon the mask would slip. And the woman he was lying for would realize he was also lying to her. He'd been quieter than usual, which is saying something for a man who already treated emotional distance like an Olympic sport. Something had shifted. Not guilt. Not remorse. Just a different kind of silence. Heavier, slouched, unsettled. I caught him sitting alone at the dining room table one evening, staring down at his phone like it owed him an apology. The kids had gone to bed. I walked past him once, twice, waiting for him to speak. When he didn't, I let it hang. But then, out of nowhere, he started talking. He said, "I told my dad." Just like that. I stopped in my tracks. Told him what? I asked, already knowing the answer. Everything, he said. That I cheated. That we're divorcing. He said his dad didn't say much, just listened. And for the first time in his life, his father had acted like a father. The weight of that hit me harder than I expected. Because for years, I'd watched him live in the shadow of that man. His father. Distant, inconsistent, emotionally unavailable. A man who disappeared when my husband was just a boy. A man who showed up once or twice a year with cheap gifts and no real connection. My husband always said he'd be different. That he would never abandon his family the way his dad did. And for a while I believed him. But now he was doing the very thing he swore he'd never become. He was leaving. Not just me but his kids. And somehow he thought saying, "I told my dad," counted for something. Like confessing it to a ghost absolved him from becoming one. Later that week, I reached out to my mother-in-law, his mom. We hadn't spoken in a while, but something didn't sit right. I needed to know more. She answered on the second ring. Her voice tired in a way only a betrayed woman can understand. I asked if she and my father-in-law were okay. He paused. "We're divorcing," she said. My stomach dropped. "He left?" I asked. Another pause. He said he needed to find himself. A man in his 60s, close to retirement, suddenly needed to find himself? I wanted to scream. I didn't. Instead, I asked the question I already knew the answer to. "Is there someone else?" She said she didn't know. But I did. He had left. Just like his son was about to. Just like his son's son might one day. Infidelity wasn't just an act. It was a family pattern. A learned behavior passed down like a broken heirloom no one ever fixed. And that realization hit me like a slow earthquake. Starting deep, rattling everything I thought I understood, until even the pictures on the wall felt crooked. My ex wasn't an anomaly. He was a copy. And the pain he caused wasn't just his to bear. It was inherited, but not inevitable. That's what I couldn't forgive. He chose to repeat it. He chose to leave the very kind of wound he once cried about as a child. And the worst part, I now had to explain to our children why Daddy doesn't come to basketball games anymore. Why he misses birthdays. Why he doesn't FaceTime on New Year's Eve even when he promises he will. I made appointments with child therapists. I rearranged their routines. I tried to shield them from the fallout I never deserved to clean up. One night, after reading bedtime stories, my youngest asked, "Is the truck coming back?" He meant the moving truck. Said no. He nodded and asked for a cookie. And in that simple exchange, I realized my children were already learning to accept the absence of someone who claimed to love them. Meanwhile, my ex was texting his girlfriend in the basement, laughing, flirting, lying. Because when I accidentally overheard a call again, I learned that I had become the villain in his version of events. He told her I'd gone crazy, that I raged, broke things, screamed, that he was the calm one, the peaceful one, just trying to co-parent while surviving my emotional instability. It wasn't even rage that hit me, it was pity. Because if he needed to assassinate my character to feel better about his own, then he'd already lost everything that mattered. And she'd eventually learn that. Because what starts in lies never ends in peace. The basement echoed when he finally left. I hadn't realized how loud emptiness could be until I stood in the doorway and saw the floor bare, the walls stripped, and the smell of him finally beginning to fade. He was gone. No note. No goodbye. Just boxes packed in a rented moving truck, driven off toward another woman's driveway. I watched from the upstairs window, not out of mourning but confirmation. I needed to see it to believe it. My home, for the first time in months, was mine again. My children's laughter filled the living room without being cut short by tension from the basement. My own breath came easier. The house didn't creak with secrets anymore. He texted once, something vague about the kids' logistics. I answered politely. I no longer needed to win or wound. I just wanted it done. The mediation paperwork had been signed. The divorce hearing was scheduled over Zoom. Anticlimactic, perhaps, but more than symbolic. It would be the official burial of something already long dead. But freedom was messy. Boxes kept arriving. New furniture for his apartment. Deliveries I no longer had to sign for. I began replacing the pieces of our shared life with ones I chose for myself. New curtains, new bedsheets, a different dish rack. Little things. Trivial things. But each one said he doesn't live here anymore. My children adjusted quickly. Faster than I did, to be honest. They missed him in passing, like one might miss a neighbor who moved away. They asked fewer questions. They stopped checking the basement. And I stopped flinching when they did. But the shadow of her remained. She hadn't met my children yet, though I knew it was coming. I told him, when that day arrives, I will be the one to meet her first. I'm not interested in confrontation. I'm interested in protection. I don't need her to like me. I need her to respect the space she's stepping into. My ex scoffed, called it unnecessary. You don't get to control this, he said. I smiled and replied, I don't need control. I have boundaries. That difference was lost on him. But it didn't matter. He'd already lost the right to rewrite the rules. He made one last mistake before he left. A phone call to her, on speaker, forgotten while our kids played upstairs. He didn't know I was nearby. I heard him lie. Again. Twist the truth until it looked like a sad little sculpture of self-pity. She went crazy, he said. She begged me not to leave. I rolled my eyes and walked away. It wasn't rage I felt anymore. Just exhaustion. Because watching someone build a relationship on falsehoods is like watching someone construct a house out of tissue paper. You don't have to tear it down. The wind will do that for you. I turned my focus inward. Therapy. Journaling. Rebuilding my identity in a house that had once been half mine. Now fully mine again. Hosted friends. Started dating again. Not to fill a void, but because I had made peace with the empty. And slowly life began to return. Not all at once. Not with a celebration. But with small, quiet moments that didn't revolve around his mood, his lies, or his absence. I stopped checking his social media. Stopped asking mutual friends what they'd heard. I didn't need to know anymore. 'Cause I knew me again. And she, the woman I had been before all of this, had grown sharper, wiser, gentler with herself. I don't hate him. That would require energy. I don't want her to suffer. That would require obsession. I want only peace. And I have it. When I saw him next, at a school recital, he smiled politely. Sat 2 rows behind me. She wasn't there. I didn't ask why. Because the only question left in this story is, what happens to a man who lies to everyone, even himself? And that's a story I no longer need to follow.